Welcome to the SaferAfrica e-learning modules. My name is Ludo Kluppels and I work as a traffic psychologist for VS Institute in Brussels. That's the new name for the Belgian Road Safety Institute. I will be your guide through this model of the safe users. Safe Users is Model 5 of the SaferAfrica e-learning course on road safety. Besides this road safety management, safe roads, safe vehicles and post-crash care, Safe Users is one of the 5 pillars of the World Health Organization Action Plan. In this model we have 4 chapters. First of all, there is an introduction about the characteristics of road users' behavior. After that we will see some of the most important characteristic of it, namely the vulnerability of road users. And then we have 2 sessions about approaches, how we can shape road users' behavior. The first of them is education and the second one is enforcement. Engineering will not be a topic in this model, but you will see it in model about safe roads and about safe vehicles. This session is about an introduction on safe road users. We will try to give you more insight in the characteristics of road users' behavior, because human factors are the most critical one. How people react to road design on other road users and how they cope with their own thoughts and emotions. It all will have an influence on road safety. And believe it or not, but the environment has a big influence on people, and in this session we will give you some evidence for it. But still, although we have realized as much as we can to create a safe, predictable and forgiving environment, people will make mistakes and errors. What do we know about that? At least we will present you the 3 most important approaches to shape the behavior of road users: education, enforcement and engineering, what is mostly referred to us as the 3 A's. Traffic is about moving from one place to another, to go to work, to school, for shopping, to visit friends, or just to make a trip for pleasure. For this displacement we can use different modes of transport. We can walk, we can cycling, we can drive a motorbike, we can driving a car, being a passenger, or using public transport. But whatever we choose, we are all and always a part of a very complex system of acting and interacting to the environment and especially to the other road users. We try to reach our destination as soon as possible, in a comfortable way and without any trouble. So it's people who make up road traffic, not the vehicle, not the roads. Of course, roads could be very badly constructed with obstacles on or besides the road that are very dangerous. Maintenance of roads could be very poor, or weather conditions can destroy parts of the road so that it becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to travel. Also, problems with the car can cause dangerous situations and accidents. Brakes that does not function anymore, a motor who gets overheated. But even in all these cases, the outcome depends for a part on the reaction of people involved. Research and accident in-depth analysis came to the conclusion that the human factor is the most involved factor in road accidents. In 93% of all accidents, human behavior plays an important role. The road environment is also important because 1/3 of all accidents was at least influenced by some part of infrastructure. The vehicles at last plays a minor role. So let's go back to the person. Has he enough competences to react adequately towards the surrounding aspects? What's about his perception? Does he know the rules and has he enough information about what needs to be done? Is his attention on the actual situation, or is he with his thoughts somewhere else? Has he the strength and the capacity to react in the right way? Experience, in this case, an important factor. But what about his motivation? Is he only thinking about moving as quickly as possible, or is he concerned about everybody's safety? Is anger disrupting his mind, or is his mind disturbed by alcohol or drugs? Is he stressed and under time pressure? Or a disease is affecting his efficiency? Let me invite you to do some exercise. Can you remember some situation during the last months in which you was involved in a traffic situation which was an almost accident or a critical situation? Probably. Take then a few moments to analyze one of these situations by trying to identify which of the factors brought you in that situation. Maybe you can stop the video, take a few moments to do the exercise, and please come back afterwards. All the factors you have found, and probably a lot more aspects of human behavior, plays an important role in traffic. It looks amazing that despite all the possible errors and complicated interaction, most of our traffic events turn out without conflicts or without accidents. I then put this observation in a more concrete form by presenting this pyramid, in which you can see that accidents are only a small proportion of all the interaction that happens every day in traffic. Nevertheless, we must try everything to prevent this small proportion, and to realize this, we can learn a lot of the nearly accident. That's why I have proposed the exercise. About the top of the pyramids, since many years, even decades, countries gather data. In Model 2 of this learning course, you got more information on how to collect data and the importance of collecting data. And on basis of that, we know in Europe that for one fatality, we count about 10 seriously wounded and 66 slightly wounded victims. 4 more collisions, about 562 for each fatality in Europe, are luckily with only material damage. If we want to prevent such undesirable situation and go for a zero vision on accidents with fatalities and injuries, we have to understand the nature of human behavior. 4 observations are crucial on this matter. First of all, decisions humans made on how to behave are guided by 2 different systems. And even if we use a conscious system, it is not always a logical decision. People are strongly influenced by environmental factors, not only the internal factors. And as humans, we don't escape on the fact of making mistakes. So let's look a little bit closer to these 4 observations. In general, people have the idea that all what we do, or most of the things, are well considered conscious action. That's why we have almost an explanation afterwards. In new or more complex situations, indeed we make considerations about possible outcomes, we analyze different factors, we are looking for the best reaction we can make at that point. That kind of decision-making processes is what Kahneman called our second thinking system, or our slow thinking system. It takes more energy, concentration, and demands a little more of time, even when it takes only a few seconds. For example, I'm driving home and I hear on my radio that the road is blocked for 1 hour. At that time, I could consider several options. I could stay on the same road and have patience. I can try to avoid this congestion by finding another way to get home. Or I can stop at the nearest parking space, drink a coffee, take some rest. In this case, I made a real decision with my slow thinking system. I'm conscious, it takes some time and it takes some energy. Most of the time, we make choices and decisions on a more intuitive and subconscious way. These decisions are based on a lot of experience and are not even recognized as a real decision. They happen spontaneously and do not demand attention or cognitive energy. This is what Kahnemans call thinking fast, or the System 1 thinking system. In the thinking fast system, we can also make a differentiation between automatic and habits. A lot of motor actions becomes automatic. We don't think anymore about how do we have to sit down on a chair. We simply do it, even if not all the chairs have the same shape. Also, a lot of vehicle maneuvering skills are automatic behavior, after a lot of practicing, of course. For example, when I'm driving on the road, I arrive at a curve. Without hesitation, I reduce a little bit of my speed. I use the steering wheel in the right way. I didn't think about it. I didn't think how I have to do it. It's spontaneous. It's automatic. If I want to think about it, it will influence my effectivity. Habits are more complex behavioral patterns that looks a little bit the same as automatic behavior, but depends more on a general context and not only on a perception of cues. An example in the context of driving is the use of safety belts, speeding, my driving style, and so on. But both automatic behavior and habits make life easier, makes driving easier, and increase the efficiency in general. But even if I take a conscious decision with my slow thinking brain, that does not mean that I base my decision only on rational elements in a logical way. Although we are convinced that we make intelligent decisions, most of the time several other factors will intervene. Emotions, social pressure, self-image, cultural norms. And the impact of these factors make lives attractive, but does not lead us to the most appropriate choice concerning our health and well-being. For example, I know that fatigue could have a big influence on my driving. I'm driving home and I feel tired. I even feel that it's difficult for me to concentrate on the road. Nevertheless, I choose to continue with driving because I want to be at home, my emotions, or I feel myself strong enough to resist the symptoms. Self-image. Decisions with slow thinking system or the fast thinking systems are not only based on internal conditions such as personality, emotions, norms, but a lot of external conditions play an important role. The physical environment is certainly in traffic such an important factor. This can be seen as an opportunity because with a good design like self-explaining roads, the road user behavior can be controlled at a certain level. People generally do not know that these processes are happening. Afterwards, they have an explanation, but they are most of the time not aware of these environmental influences. Also, the presence of other people have an influence on our behavioral decisions. When one pedestrian crosses the road when the pedestrian's lights are red, a lot of other people will follow his example. At an accident scene, in the presence of a lot of bystanders, it is possible that no one will help the victim. In contrast, of course, with the situation when you are alone or just with a few bystanders. But whatever decision you make, or whatever decision system you use, people will make mistakes. Reason distinguishes two big categories of errors which could be linked with slow and fast thinking. First of all, the unintentional errors, what is called slips and lapses. Examples are putting on the windscreen wipers instead of the indicator, trying to pass another vehicle without noticing that he already put on his indicator also to go to the other lane. Misreading the signs and leaving the roundabout on the road on the wrong exit. Or you leave your car and forget the keys. Or you're driving in the wrong gear. Or you have no clear recollection of the road just traveled. In most of these cases, this kind of slips and lapses doesn't lead to accidents, because the driver is already very quickly seeing the problems and can react with his slow thinking system. Of course, that's only possible when he is not too distracted. He is not under the influence of drugs and alcohol. He is not speeding too much. Intended actions or intended errors are linked with the slow thinking system. Mistakes are errors made because people didn't have the right idea of what was going on in the situation, or they apply not the right traffic rule for that situation. For example, underestimating the speed of an oncoming vehicle when overtaking, braking the wrong way on a slippery road, getting into the wrong lane when approaching a junction, a misinterpretation of a priority rule, etc. Violations are actions which are known to be wrong or dangerous, such as overtaking on the wrong side, excessive speeding, but nevertheless we decide to do it. Some errors and some mistakes, unintentional or intentional, are more dangerous than others. Here we give 4 examples of what we called in Europe the killers on the road: speeding, driving under the influence, distraction, and fatigue. Going back to the 4 observations, decisions are made on different cognitive systems. Decisions are not always logical. Environment has a strong influence, and humans make mistakes. It looks that people are very unpredictable in their behavior. Nevertheless, it is important that road users react in a predictable way so that he can estimate what the other people are doing and adapt his own behavior. That's why we have rules, signs, markings, traffic lights, regulations, and so on. Probably you are a good driver. You make not a lot of mistakes. Can you imagine which has helped you? What kind of factors have helped you to be a good driver or to become a good driver? Take some moments to think of different aspects from your childhood until now. What helps you to become the driver you are at this time? You can stop the video and please don't forget to come back afterwards. Did you have some ideas of what has shaped your behavior? You have probably some factors that is called, oh, my education, I have good information, I had a good explanation, people have shown me how to do it. And probably you've also think about people have given me rewards when I was doing good and punishment when I was doing badly. People have encouraged me. And maybe you have also find some ideas about how other people have clarified, blocked, or shaped the situation in which you are handling. These principles are normal principles in every growing up, in every education, but there are also you can also apply them in a traffic safety situation. Information explaining and showing how to do it is what we call road safety education. That could be in schools, by driver training, by campaigning, by explanation giving by police officers, by television programs, and so on. You learn a lot of skills, learn a lot of competences. The second approach is about setting rules, reacting to road users' behavior, and if necessary, to give them sanctions. That's what we call road safety enforcement. But maybe the most promising one is a third approach, which is called road safety engineering. The environment, the road safety, the road infrastructure, and the vehicle in which we are driving are designed in such a way that the adequate behavior for that situation has the highest probability to occur spontaneously. Let me give you two small examples. When speed must be lowered in a certain situation, a narrowing of the road and an axle shift will be more effective than only a warning sign about school children. An alarm in the car when the driver or the passenger didn't wear his seatbelt has increased the use of seatbelt many more times than all the campaigns together. The best results with these three education, engineering, enforcement are gained when they are combined as much as possible. Education without enforcement will have only a very small result. Focus only on enforcement will have a temporary effect and only during the period the control activity stays visible. As seen before, most of our behavior is more intuitive and led by environmental stimuli, so when engineering is not involved, the results will stay below expectations. That's why it's important to evaluate, which is of course the fourth A, what the impact of the measures will be. A good data collection is in this case also important, but that was already discussed in previous models. But at least, even when we take measures for engineering, education and enforcement and evaluation afterwards to see what is happening, the most important E is the fifth one, namely engagement. People have to, and politicians and the whole society have to be engaged in traffic safety. About education, we see a little bit more in session 3 of this model, and on enforcement, we will end this model in session 4. So, let us summarize what we have seen in this first session of road safe users. Talking about road safety is in the first place talking about human behavior. And the human behavior is involved in almost 90% of all accidents. The decisions humans made are not always rational and logic, and for a big part an automatic reaction to a specific situation. This reaction is as for an important part influenced by external environmental factors, which give us an opportunity to shape road users' behavior. So we will design the traffic environment or the vehicle in such a way that the most wanted reaction of the people, most wanted behavior, will be probably the most realistic. In combination with education and enforcement, engineering approach is probably the most promising on the long run. But the three approaches have to be combined as much as possible. The content of this model and this session, and to prepare the next sessions, we will invite you to do the following things. Read again the session on self-explaining and forgiving roads. It must be in Model 1 and Model 3, and look for the links with road users' behavior and this session. Please look around in your neighborhood and try to see how the environment influences road users' behavior at that point. Do you see any possibilities to ameliorate the situation? Look a little bit back at the latest campaign on road safety in your country. In which way education and enforcement were integrated. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you back in the next session on the vulnerability of road users. Thank you very much.